What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I wanted to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what's going on with the market thus far and some very important things that Jerome Powell said that caused the market to initially pump, then eventually get a massive rug pull. So I'm going to break down where the market is looking right now, what is my price target for SPY and the QQQ and all these different tickers, and what did Jerome Powell say to cause the market to drop the way it did. But before I break anything down with this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. Firstly, I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you're guaranteed up to 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed up to 15 free stocks, and the offer ends very soon. Anyways, now let's break down what's going on with the market. So I just wanted to mention that the way SPY in the market moved was very interesting. At first, we started selling off a bit, then we got a little pump thanks to Powell. But this was just a liquidity grab before we got ready for like the big dump that was coming. And Jerome Powell said a lot of things that ended up causing the market to dump very hard. So what did Powell do? What did this guy say? Why did this happen? Here's the answer. So initially, Jerome Powell was just saying his same script. He was saying that there's a lot of work for the Fed to still do. The Fed has the same and main target of getting inflation down to 2%. And he also mentioned that the core CPI 12-month projections are not in track with what the Fed wants, and that the Fed has to continue to monitor the situation on a month-over-month basis. He mentioned that there has been progress that's made. In order for this to continue, they need more and more good pieces of data consistently for them to start cutting. And they don't want to cut too early, so they want to be very careful. The Fed also have a lot of work to be done, apparently, according to Jerome Powell, and they're not going to stop easily, so they have to keep doing what's necessary. Initially, when Powell started answering the questions, we saw SPY ended up just pumping with everything I just said. SPY started pumping back up. Tesla was pumping. The market was pumping and holding up. But then something happened. Jerome Powell ended up saying that, look, there's work to be done, and the Fed will most likely not be cutting rates in March. He said that he does not think it's likely that the committee will reach a level of confidence by the time of the March meeting, and that there's going to have to be more work to be done. He also mentioned that it's unlikely they're going to be cutting rates by then, and that's what really shook the markets. So the reason why that's important is because initially, the market was anticipating the first cuts to be coming in March of this year. So now for March, we're actually seeing a reduced probability of the Fed giving us a cut. There's a higher probability right here that the Fed is going to keep the rates the same. That's what it shows right here. This is some big news because the Fed may have to keep rates up for longer, which is going to be negative for the entire economy to some extent, a little bit negative for the EVs out there like Tesla, the banks out there. It's going to be very important. Now, this is very, this is very interesting because the market was at extreme greed on the fear and greed index, and that's when the market was in the topping process. I personally think that the market top is in. I think that whether we get one more pump, a minor pump in the market or not, will still depend on one more factor. But otherwise, I'd see a pullback coming, and I think the market has some more downside coming nonetheless. So why do I say this? Let's first mention everything is at extreme greed. We're still at greed in terms of different indicators. Even the puts and call positioning was at extreme greed. We might see another increase in the puts and call ratio once again as the market starts to pull back. There's one more thing worth noting, that's going to be earnings. Earnings for today were very minor. We had Boeing in the morning. They actually did okay in terms of their losses being more narrow than expected, but they didn't really give us guidance. But there is one more factor for the markets for tomorrow. It's going to be Aapl, Amzn, and Meta's earnings. Could this cause the market to pump one more time and then dump? Who knows? Or is it going to cause the market to just crash even harder? We'll just have to wait and see. But there are some things in the charts I want to break down. Now that the market hit these extremes and we're starting to see a big shift, I think that the top is in for SPY and the QQQ. And I think the market's about to shift directions. However, here's how I think it's going to go. I think that it depends on if SPY can hold 482 because this is the historical support right here. If we lose 482, I think SPY is going to not just drop to 480, but come all the way down towards 478. That's going to be our next target if we lose that support. Now we have resistance at 484, not to mention 485 above that and 486. These are all going to be resistance levels. SPY, however, is looking very undervalued. I want to call out that right here on the daily chart, the 4-hour lost the 50 EMA. And on the daily, here's the big thing. The daily looks really bearish now. We're about to get a bearish cross in the PPO, a very bearish looking daily candlestick. Could we, excuse me, we might pop a little in the morning. then starts selling off. So it looks to me like it's going to test the daily 20 EMA at 480. If we lose that, 478 is next to fill this gap. I think that SPY has more downside coming. So it looks bearish to me. Could we rebound a little bit at first to grab liquidity? It is possible we kind of like push back up. It's like 484, grab liquidity where this wick happens to be. And then after that, we don't really hold this level. We just start to collapse. I think 480 is going to come and then eventually 478. So in my view, SPY is now bearish. We might pop a little bit and eventually dump. My view could change just temporarily depending on these earnings. But besides earnings, guys, besides that factor, I still think SPY has more downside coming even for tomorrow. And I still think there's going to be more downside coming anyways. So look for a little pop tomorrow, a grab of liquidity, then a big rug pull that is going to be coming. I think 480 is coming for SPY, then 478. Watch for more downside. SPY is looking more bearish. What about for Tesla? Tesla was trying to rebound, and unfortunately, Tesla ended up getting another rug pull. You could see it right here thanks to Jerome Powell, especially because the high interest rates will just hurt Tesla. So I think that Tesla could grab liquidity very close to 190, maybe a little bit lower than that, 188. And then I think Tesla's going to get a rug pull and make its way down to 184 and eventually 182.5 all over again. This could even resemble kind of like an inverse cup and handle where Tesla just starts to sink. So I'm turning more bearish now. I think Jerome Powell did his work, and we're going to see this affect Tesla negatively. If you want to turn bullish, you have to break the high we made today, get above 194. If it does so, excuse me, guys, Tesla will have potential. Otherwise, I think Tesla's going to sell off more and make its way down towards the lower 180s. So I think Tesla's going to get a rug pull as well. For the QQQ, just to be clear, Tesla on the daily looks relatively weak. Looks like it got a rejection. The QQQ is also looking very bearish on the daily. We're going to be testing 416 as key support. If we lose that, we have a gap to fill all the way down to 412. That's going to be our next target. So, in my opinion, watch 418 as resistance and 420. I think that we might pop a little bit into this range, 418 to 420. Then we might get a big rejection and retest 416, which if we lose, a big drop is coming to 412. I think the QQQ has more downside, and we're just getting started with the sell-off. Look for a little pop first and another sell-off thanks to Jerome Powell. Pop and drop is most likely coming for another decent-sized pullback. My target is 412 on the QQQ. What about for Nvda? Unfortunately, Nvidia is still very, very choppy, but I don't think it's going to maintain these levels for that long. I think that there's a good chance it might, excuse me, it might retest 610 to 607 all over again. It might start to come back down. And I think that Nvidia is looking a little bit weaker, especially on the daily time frame. We have two indecisive candles, and we're kind of losing some momentum. So I think Nvidia will pop back up one more time, then make its way down towards 607 and 602. I'm anticipating some downside on Nvidia as well. I think that's going to follow the trend. On top of this, for Aapl, Apple's looking kind of weak as well. If you look at the daily, we have 182 is our next target for the gap fill, followed by 180 at the 200 EMA on the daily to be tested. Aapl is also favoring the bearers a bit more. So I think that there's a very good chance it's going to sell off and make its way down towards 182 then 180. Look for a pop first to 185.5, then a big sell off coming. I think the lower 180s is going to be on the table. I think Aapl has a rug pull coming. So that being said, that is it for the majority of the tickers I typically go over. Just for a few others, SoFi looking kind of weak. We're going to be likely making our way down towards 7.5 thanks to what Jerome Powell said. The Russell 2000 is looking bearish. We got a very bearish looking daily candlestick. 191 is coming for the 50 EMA test. If we lose that, there's 190 then 187. But I think the IWM has some downside coming. For Microsoft, we look bearish. I think 393.5 is coming. If we lose this, a bigger drop is going to be coming towards 390. But I think that 393 is our target on Microsoft, and more downside is imminent. For AMD, I think that AMD is going to be coming down to 162. If we lose that, expect a bigger drop towards 160 all over again. This is looking a bit weaker in my opinion. The VIX is starting to break out. It's above its 50 EMA and 50 moving average on the daily time frame. Going to be looking for a push to try to get back towards 15. If we break the 200 EMA, it's going to be another sign of strength. So watch that very carefully. The dollar index is starting to break out as well. It's starting to push a little higher. If you could break 103.65 or the 200 EMA, a bigger push will come. We're seeing a wick forming. It actually closed green, so it's showing a little bit of strength. Coinbase looking very bearish on the daily. Going to be looking for a drop towards 125. If we lose that, we have this wick to be watching for at 121. That looks a bit more bearish. Google ended up tanking today after what happened. We're going to be watching to see if it could hold 142. We're just barely above this in the after hours, but we're still looking kind of bearish. If we lose 142, 136 is coming next. As of right now, we'll see if it holds this tomorrow, but there's a risk of some downside. Amazon, from a technical standpoint, is barely at support at 155. If we lose that, we'll be sinking towards 152 ish. Now, the thing is, Amazon has earnings coming out, so we'll just have to see how it goes, and if this could end up affecting the share price or not. So watch and see how earnings affects it tomorrow. Same thing with Meta, but Meta is looking kind of weak. There is a risk of it coming down to 378, but we'll see what happens with earnings. So just be very careful. We'll wait and see how that goes first. So with that being said, the market might gap up and try to push a little bit in the morning, then watch for a sell-off. We're looking bearish on the charts, guys. Jerome Powell did his magic again, and he is causing the market to sink. The best thing to do is be prepared for this, remain calm, cool, and collected at all times, and I'll see you guys very soon on the next one. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great day, guys. Remember to remain calm, cool, and collected no matter what, and peace out.